Okay, thank you all for being here. Today we have a special program, a program that was fixed with Fabiola just after Brussels events, these dramatic Brussels events. We said with Fabiola, why not now try to talk about what could be a role of a coach during a crisis? And Fabiola is probably one of the best positioned coach to talk about that, because every year she has a 2-3 earthquake in Chile. But also Fabiola has been assisting Venezuelan coaches during the current, I would say, political crisis and permanent political crisis in Venezuela, with social impacts, etc. So coaches there has a lot of work to do. So let me introduce you Fabiola, who is a member of Morena. She's a president of ICF in Chile and PCC, and she's ontological coach. And now let's Fabiola share with us her thoughts about that role of coaches during a crisis.
Okay, thank you, Francois. First of all, when I see in the news all these impacts, all these impacting images in Brussels, I connect from my heart with what I experienced during the earthquake in 2010 and during other events in my life, in the life of others, that can be so tough that I can't put all my energy and all my resources in place, and I can't take another step in my life. So the first thing I want to share with you is that I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm empowering myself to be connected through language. I'm one of my paradigm is to change that language is not a border, it's a bridge. So I'm reaching that bridge and saying that, please, if you don't understand something, or if I need another word that I don't know, I will ask you. Okay. Because I think that what I share with you is a gift that was given to me first. When in 2010, I couldn't do anything by myself because of the crisis occurring, the earthquake. So I will share my screen. Please, if you have a question, you can stop and ask anytime you want.
Sure.
Or if, because we talk before with you, Francois, if you see that it's anything that I spoke with you in Spanish that I'm not putting here, please tell me so. Okay. So this design, this methodology is a methodology that it's put in place in different kinds of crises, not only in earthquakes, not only in natural phenomena, but also when companies, because of what they do, they have crises all the time. And it's designed to be the first step in any other kind of companionship during a crisis. Oops. Let me see. Okay. Oh, it's at the end. I see. That's why I'm starting by the end. Okay. That was the images of the earthquake in 2010. Let me put some context in this. I was alone. My husband was having a few days of vacations with his son. My children were in Ecuador. I'm originally from Ecuador. That's important to say because of the Chilean people. I think they born here with a chip, special chip, that allows them to be more intelligent during earthquakes. It was so devastating. I woke up at 4 o'clock with something that I couldn't understand what was happening. Everything is moving. I think it's what, and so much noise. I didn't know what to do. I only remember my grandfather's voice telling me, if something happens in your life and you think you have to be careful with you, go run into a door. Mm-hmm. So that was the thing that I did. I went to the main door of my apartment. I take the door and I see how the tornillos, how you say in English?
Screw.
The screw were turning and going out of the secure part of the door. So I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. I was in my pajamas. I didn't know how to move. I didn't know if I go back to bed. I didn't know. So at that time, I hear a voice of a neighbor, and he says, "Let's go down. It's an earthquake." This was the most devastating earthquake Chile had in their story. Mm. It was a 9.1 in the Richter scale. It was very, very impacting. The damages were everywhere. And the only thing that I could do after I go out of my apartment is take the phone, call my family in Ecuador and ask them, please don't let the kids go back today. We have an earthquake, I'm okay. And that's all. Then the communications go down. We couldn't reach anyone by phone. So in that moment I see, okay, now I am a coach. What can I do as a coach? But first, I'm a human being. And as a human being, I don't know what to do now. What can I do now to be effective with myself first? What can I do to be effective with myself first to try to reach the people that I know, let them know that I'm okay. I really don't know if I am okay too. You know, it was so impacting that I really don't know if I am okay. Because of experience in earthquakes, Chile can move very fast as a culture to be part of groups and association and communities to do something because of all the natural disasters that they are used to. But I'm not Chilean, I'm Ecuadorian, so I didn't know how to connect. Then I called a few friends the day after, and they tell me, you know, there's this organization that's putting a model of intervention in accompanying crises that can be useful for you. So I go there, and the only thing that they ask us is, please don't feel that this is a thing that you can sell. It's a gift. So give this as a gift anytime you think anyone can be part of a crisis and can need a model to go through a crisis. So when I see in the news that this is happening in Brussels, I talk to Francois and say, let's put this gift together, let's share, so they can have this model, and if this is useful for them, it's okay. I can share, put it in YouTube, so we can share and have a new model as coaches to accompanying people. So how can we define crisis? See? How can we define crisis? Because when there are some events that we can manage ourselves, we can manage the issue that is going on, we can manage the problems, but something happens when the crisis that even when you put all your actions, all your resources, all your models, you can't recover basic functionality. So here's the definition of a crisis in this model. When something critical happens, when there's a critical event, we define this as an emergency when something that happens puts into action all our resources to restore basic functionality, and that's okay, and that's enough for that. But in crisis, sometimes something happens, and this that happens exceeds the ability to recover the basic functionality, even putting excuse me, into action all our resources. So that's the way I felt that time, and I think that that's something that we can make a distinction when we as a coaches can do something, and when as a coaches we think that it exceeds because we can't be careful with us first to be careful with others. So why is this model in putting in action? Why we ask people to try to find a way to manage crisis? First, to recover functionality, to make calmly decisions, to provide responsible support, because sometimes in crisis, the nature of the people is to say, okay, this was not that tough, it will pass, think of something positive. And no, we have to provide responsible support to act in uncertainty environments, to avoid harming and to protect life. What happens in a crisis? In a crisis, there are losses. We can lose people, we can lose resources, we can lose our daily basis things, we can lose everything. It affects us all. It doesn't mean that if you don't have people related to you that was harmed or you lose that person, it doesn't affect to you. It affects us all. It modifies our personal resources. It requires a new kind of organization during crisis. This that happens impacts us differently depending on other factors. Professional, it can burn out us, and personal, it affects us all, even if we couldn't look that affection. So here, let me share with you some of the main effects that can occur in a crisis. First, there are cognitive effects. We have confusion, disbelief, difficulty dimensioning what happened, difficulty to think about it, difficulty to concentrate. We can make decisions that we think that they are not the best decisions. We can't, with difficult, incorporate new information, and we can re-experience the critical event again. For example, if someone was in a war and see this thing that happens in Brussels that sounds similar to a bomb in a war, they can re-experience this critical event connected to what's happening today. There are emotional effects. First is the shock. And the shock, because of how we are now connected by the media, it's not only in Brussels, it's in all the Occidental part of the world, if I say, and it affects all the whole human community. It can appear intense emotions like fear, anger, and very intense emotions. It can make an emotional outburst. We can be emotional, we lose our emotional lability. We can be also flattening our emotions. We can be in denial, like it doesn't affect me, I'm okay. And you can also re-experiencing another emotions over and over again if you don't speak out the emotions. What are the behavioral effects that we see in crisis? We can be in more impulsiveness, we can see acting and erratical behavior. We can inhibit ourselves in our natural behavior. We can avoid, and also, and this is important to look at, there's a possibility to increase consumption of alcohol and psychoactive substances even if you didn't take them before. The psychological effects, physiological effects, they are also very clear and evident. As ontological coaches, we know that our body speaks louder when our mind and our emotions are flattened. So here some kind of signs that you can see physiologically during a crisis. There's body ache, headache, dizziness and fatigue, tachycardia, changes in blood pressure, chest pains, chest tightness, shortness and breath and choking, gastrointestinal problems, fatigue, sleep disorders, and eating disorders. And because we are not alone when this thing happens, it affects also in our relationships, not only with co-workers, but in our family too. These are one of the signs that you can see during crisis that can be more common. For example, difficulty to reaching agreements, taking actions in an uncoordinated way, overlapping or diluted responsibilities, mutual guiltness, disqualification of effectiveness of other resources, mistrust. This is very, very important to look in organizations as coaches, because these signs sometimes can take place and we think that our work as coaches is not working. Because mistrust is one of the most common things that appear in organizations, and overlapping responsibilities because of that lackness of trust. So with these signs, we have different levels of support. These levels are designed to be taking place one step by the other. First is the first support is concentrated in one person to protect the physical and psychological integrity of people. In this way, you can be more effective. You can have some tools that are so easily to take that you can be more effective with them. And here they are. They are ordered as I learned them. First is the first contact. In the first contact, it's very important to empower people to be here and now, to relate to the here and now, speaking out about what was happening, to talk all the things that happen between the event and the moment they are today, because sometimes, because of that crisis, of the impact of that crisis, we lost some of the history of that event. And it's very important to reconstruct the whole experience. For example, in the earthquake, I remember that I was in bed and then I was out taking the door. The people that helped me says, okay, what happened between you being in the bed and you hanging the door? And I didn't remember it quite well. So I see, okay, I was thinking that, and then I take step by step, and then I take my dog with me, okay, and all those things helps to be reconstructing the history, helps to be here and now, and helps to not be connect all the time with the crisis, with the first moment of the crisis. Then contact with external reality. What is happening there, what is happening with you, what is happening with your family. Accompanying and asking how it affects to you, what happens, and how are you today, what do you need? In this, what do you need, be very specifically if they have, for example, some medicine that they need to take, or if they have to call to someone that they need to make contact. All these things have to be very specific. The second step is support and understanding. To put in place empathy without judgment, listen focused here and now, be very open, put in the shoes of that person and what is happening to them. The third is assess the consequences, identify what they need now, managing the expectations, review step by step, and evaluate what is the immediate consequences that will affect in their day-by-day agenda. The fourth step is assess the circumstances of life and contextualize the impact by previous emotional state, pre-treatments, habits, age, and lifestyle. It's very different if I am a teenager or if I am a grown-up. It's very different the way that it affects me if I had a similar event in my life or if this is the first time. The fifth step is determine immediate action and promote adaptive behaviors. This helps to protect integrity, to go to your network support or make a network support, make group care commitments. For example, if you think that you will be alone for a while, and you will be scared, something that can help is that you can ask someone that can call you at a precise hour and feel their companion. Adjust your agenda and expectations to what's happening. We can't do the same things before and after. We can't say do the same things. We can have to take care to our family maybe or to ourselves. So manage your agenda and provide information on reactions to the crisis. When you share all the possible effects in all those levels that I share with you, the people can see, you know, this is happening, this is real. As a human being, these are the possibilities. It's not bad if I feel angry. It's not bad if I'm confused. It's not bad that I have some aches that I never had. It's part of the crisis. So that helps to manage the crisis. Then the sixth step is refer to refer and unfollow. Link this person or group of people with the long-term aid resources. You are just the first step to contact them with what is happening to the crisis. You are the very first help. Then they can be, like in the 7th step says, closing, put in good hands. For example, a therapist or a coach or a physical doctor. So you have to be very careful to ensure that that person will be in good hands. And in that seventh step in closing, explain what is the next action to be performed according to the decisions they've made. Because when you have changes in your agenda, it's very important, or in your basic day by day, you need to focus all the time what will be the changes because of that, what is the next step, so they can reach that step. Because during crisis we can be very confused. Then is a way that we can support groups. The objective is to provide conversations to achieve functionality in crisis context. This is a place for coaches. We have competences to conversational competences. So this is a place that we can be very helpful during crisis. And these are the main actions that you can take that are similar when you work with one person, but there are something that can change because you can make groupal commitments. We make here and in Venezuela groups of coaches that worked with communities and with work with their clients too. So they create groups of talking about the crisis, to what happens to them with this crisis, because also it was a long-term crisis. It's different when it's one event that affects a whole, and you have an experience, but it's one event, as for example in Venezuela, that is a long-term space of crisis. It's very different, so you have to be flexible in that context to allow people to talk about what's happening without judgment. Also, that happened in Venezuela, there are persons to take positions. So it's very difficult for them to manage, and this methodology helps them a lot. First of all, when you have a group of people, it can be, and our experiences was, we can have 10 people, 12, 50, 100. The thing there is that you have to be not alone as a coach to work with more people. First, create context. Present yourself. Ask how they are working with this. How can they promote a conversation to reach healthy agreements. Those healthy agreements are very basic. And sometimes in crisis we think, how can we be discussing things that are so basic? But when a crisis occurs, something happens in our brain, in our basic brain, that it needs to be taken very step-by-step agreements. Then, and that's a place for us in the second step, conversational skills. Validate all what they say. Put those things as symptoms of the crisis, with not judgment. Do not take position. Maintain the focus all the time of the group. Your active listening will be very helpful, and please do minimal instructions. This kind of conversation is not a conversation to put information in the group. It's a conversation to listen and to manage that listening others. And that is why we ask, do minimal instructions. The third step is evaluate groupally the consequences. Detect individual and groupal needs, managing expectations, plans, and projects. This is so important when we work with organizations, because you need to manage the expectations to be more effective in the long term. Review step by step the process. Ask specific questions to assess the immediate consequences. For example, if you have a group that had a crisis, and we were talking yesterday with Francois that because of her work in water, there are accidents. You have to take the whole group and manage them as to have a new plan during the crisis, and then go back to the main plan. The first step is evaluate groupal circumstances. Again, contextualize the impact from ability to coordinate private actions and how is the organizational culture there. When there are organizations that are so focused in goals, it's very difficult for them to achieve the importance of managing crisis. But if they don't manage crisis in the very first moment, the impact in that organization you will see in a few months, and then they have to go back and take actions about the crisis, and then to reorder their way of working. The fifth point here is determine immediate actions and promote adaptive behaviors, personal care and group care commitments, network supporting, decompression spaces, activating social systems. Adjust your agenda and your expectations to what is happening and share information on reactions to the crisis. If you are working with an organization, it's very valued when you share with them a little note and they share with all the symptoms that can occur, and they share with their families. In that way, the adaptive behaviors works in the whole community, and that takes action in a very more wide impact. And the sixth step is follow-up and coordinations. Here it's very important to active the competences that the group already had. If they are, for example, a group that can be very very, you can say, they are, let me see, I'm working in the word that I need, that they feel very focused in an action. Okay, if that is the way that they work, look for an action that will be healthy for them as a group during crisis, not a goal that will burn out them. Ask them to look for a goal that will be healthy for them. Also, enhance individual competences that helps group. In all kind of groups, there's a person that always knows more of the group, knows more of each individual in the group, knows more about their family. So this look that and that conduct and enhance that competences to help the group. In that group, there's a person who knows about or that can be very motivating for all the people. Please enhance that individual competency. In the closing with the group, explain what is the next action according to the decisions that they take together, and leave anchored agreements and roles for each one. It's very important that they can manage those agreements, and they can manage the way they put signs to see when the crisis is over for them. So it's also very important that they can know when it's over the crisis plan. And then, and as a coach, it's very important for us too, it's peer support. The objective of the peer support is to learn to be careful with yourself, then to care for others. In that way, we have also very specific ways to work. First, recognize yourself as part of the situation. We are part of the situation. We are witnesses and participants too. We are exposed to personal and professional wear. We serve recognizing us as part of the situation. That is why you have to be very careful with you too. Don't work alone. Work with others. The second step is a personal check. For example, I can ask myself, how am I today? How do I feel? How I am thinking, what I am thinking, how I am physically. And then you can be very, you can have this, it's like a check, but it's also like a personal scanner, I think. And in that personal scanner, it's very important to be focused in you, in what are you needing today. As we work in crisis, not all days are the same. So it's very important each day to take a moment to check you. Then record the signals from the effects of the crisis in you. You can have a journal and what's happened to me today, or what I have learned of myself today during crisis. The third step is determine immediate action and promote adaptive behaviors for yourself. For example, this is a great question to start the day. What am I prepared to do today? We are coaches. We are no heroes. How do you require help or support? Be flexible. If someday you feel that you are not in the best state to work with others, be flexible with you. Working with peers, never alone, never alone. Protect your integrity, physically and mental health. Set the agenda and the expectations to what's happening today. The fourth step is about care resources. Go to support networks, your family, your friends, your colleagues. Choose a partner coach. Maybe you can choose a partner coach that is not working in the same environment during crisis that are you working. Keep sharing spaces and recreation free and decontaminated of what is happening. Find ways to express yourself, giving yourself permission to be angry, to don't want to be with people for about a week. Give you all the permissions that you need because you are attending crisis. Seek professional support if you need it. The fifth step is trust. And this is a competency as coaches that we also share. We trust in the resources that as human beings, we have to solve our own problems, and so our coaches. Listen to your instincts. Remember, you are not alone. The sixth step of this methodology is create knowledge, because as coaches, we are part of a profession that is growing, and we need a lot of new methodologies to be more effective. So create knowledge, register your work, share the good practices with your peers, and make this as a legacy. So this is the image of the chato. the charter was a very beautiful beach that was devastated because of the earthquake and the tsunami that came with it. Remember that this happens in February. In February, we are on vacations. So there were a lot of people that lost their lives because they were on the last day of vacations. We have our crisis. We stop during that crisis. We help each other during that crisis. And then, because of the way we attend to a crisis, we enrich ourselves in creativity, in solidarity, in new ways to be stronger, but not blind, that this will maybe happen again. So this is the chateau now. As you see, there are a lot of changes. The first change is that they put this very long boardwalk, but it's not only beauty, but also it's a wall that protects the town. They put a lot of effort to be up. There are a lot of energy put in schools, in building new schools, building new business. So now this is the chateau, and a community that now learned to be careful with themselves, to listen to their instincts when they say you have to go away from the coast. I live in a very resilient country. We have a lot of different kind of crises, and this methodology served us to go through the crisis and then to go back and grow with new steps. Now I will stop sharing.
Okay, Fabiola, thank you very much. Really, it was a great presentation. Thank you for sharing both your precious experience and precious knowledge about the crisis and how to accompany them. This inspires a lot coaches, but also mentors, psychologists, every professional who can be close to people. There are some words that came into the scene all the time. Don't be alone. Listen, be with them. They don't have to be alone. And also interesting to see that being in a performance mindset is counterproductive with managing crisis.
Totally, because when you are in your mindset, you forget that you are a human being, that you have needs, that you are with others, that there are a lot of signs of the crisis that you are blind to when your mindset is said, okay, you have to recover now, let's go on, it will pass. You have to make a stop.
Yes.
Make a stop. Think about it, talk about it, express yourself of what's happening, take care of each other. That will be more helpful in the long term.
That's why the program we are developing with you in Morena is, the name is Pause, Rewind, and Go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to open the door to questions, and please feel free to share your feelings or to ask questions to Fabiola. Who wants to start?
Thank you, Fabiola. I have a tough flu, so I'm crying because of my flu, but also because of Brussels.
Sure.
It I have to clean up my eyes and my. Sorry. That's really, thank you for the gift, Fabiola. It's incredible how it's upset and how we are connected. It's incredible. Even if I don't know the people who die, we are so connected, and we are connected to these people who are doing this sort of action. And I have a question with your slide. Fabiola. Just, I don't catch the stage 4 in your slide. Twice you propose a slide. One is individual and the second one is groupal. And there's a 4th step and I don't catch it. I don't know why. So if you can illustrate it by an example.
Okay.
Great.
First of all, Evelyn, as you said, it touches us all.
Any additional question?
From my part, it's Eve here. Thank you very much, Fabiola. It was a very enlightening, presentation, and with all the details, I'm quite impressed. So thank you very much for having shared this document.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you, Evelyn. Jean-Luc, as Evelyn, you are in Brussels, the epicenter of the dramatic events this week. How it's come to you? How it sounds to you?
So I would like to thank Fabiola for sharing this, and I think I hope we'll have the opportunity to share more and work together, because we have a lot of things to share and we live together. What I would like to say is that what I'm wondering, and how is the feeling of the crisis? You were talking about earthquake. So an earthquake, it touched all a town, all a country. And there are some crises, like here in Brussels, and that didn't touch all the country, maybe not in a different way. And I was thinking about what happened. It can be a different crisis, because if, for example, in an enterprise, you have a crisis, a financial crisis, and that can touch the engineer and the director differently that the workers. So I was I don't have to answer. I'm wondering, because the question is that how do we work if you have a crisis that doesn't touch all the people in the same way? So I don't have precise question. I just wondering. You understand, if it's a crisis in an enterprise, you can see it can be different for a worker than for the boss. For the boss, maybe it's not so important. For worker, he's losing his job. But for the boss, maybe he has other things to do. And so how do we work with that, with a crisis that is not that doesn't touch all the people in the same way?
Thank you, Jean-Luc. I see not every crisis touches people in a very different ways. In the example that you are putting in an enterprise, when workers and the engineers and the boss are connected because they are working together with a purpose, but if the crisis takes place because of their business, if they are doing bad business, it's different if the crisis is something that takes place socially, like this event in Brussels. You see, because if the crisis is, I don't think that we can call that crisis. Maybe we can call that I don't know, but it's an emergency. You know, that distinction, that's a way that you can manage that in a very different ways. But when it's a crisis, what I saw is that it doesn't the behavior or the way you experience the crisis doesn't connect with your status in the organization. It connects with you as a person, with you as a human being. So it's very interesting because sometimes some workers that maybe are not so that we don't see so much of them, that they are like in a group, very big group of people, and you can individualize that person. During crisis, you can be surprised of some human abilities and connecting capacities that some of the workers can have, and not the boss. You know, because sometimes the boss is so focused in showing him as a leader, as a tough leader, that doesn't allow him to connect with some very basic needs that the people will need during crisis. So you can be very surprised of what is the response of the people in one of our organization. I don't see that there's a link between the position in the organization with the response in the crisis.
Thank you, Fabiola. Thank you, Jean-Luc.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jean-Luc, yesterday you told me that in Brussels there are spontaneous solidarities, extremely innovative between people. They don't talk before, they do.
During crisis, appears the best of the human beings and the worst of the human beings. It's very, very impacting for us, because in the earthquake, there are a lot of people that went to supermarkets and steal things. You know, it was, what are you doing? We need those things. You know, it's in crisis, our basic instincts go. You know how to say
are predominant sometimes.
Yeah, afloran. Yeah.
Thank you, Fabiola. Any additional sharing, Paola, Sophie?
Well, a big thank you, Fabiola, and it is nice to be able to connect also with Jean-Luc and Evelyn with this. I feel it's a nice way of doing of being present, because you were present in my mind, both of you, a lot the last few days. So I'm happy to. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yes, I want to thank you too, Fabiola. It was very nice. I'm very touched. Listen to Evelyn, I got very, because I think it affects us all, even us here so far away. And it helped me, because I think that here in Brazil, we are going through a very huge crisis. And I think it will help me a lot. I will give some time to process all this and to see how I can help people, because it's incredible. I thought that here now everything would stop, but the opposite, more and more people are coming to me and ask for help, for coaching, and I am very surprised with both sides, the worst and the good in people coming out. It's very touching to see. Here we have no head. The country is completely leaderless, if it's exists this word. And people are very scared. The emotion in the air is fear, it's insecurity. So another kind of crisis, not an event, intense and huge, but something, little events who are growing, sometimes explodes. So I leave this meeting very, very touched, very connected to you all, and with more gunness, how do we say, more wish of, go move on here and work and create things and create groups. And so thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Paola. So now we are going to close our conference. Saying also, I'm proposing, Jean-Luc, perhaps the next time, it would be interesting that you explain to all of us what you are building up with some Moranian partners on your program, which is just after a crisis, just after a loss. You accompany people in that program, which name is Trust and Restart. So if you don't mind, we will be very, very pleased to hear you next month. Are you okay with that?
Yes, of course, no problem.
Exactly.
Of course.
So thank you very much, all of us. What we can share now about crisis here around the table, 3 countries, Belgium, Chile, Brazil, who has experiencing crisis. So we are Chile, we are Belgium, we are Brazil. Thank you very much, all of us. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we are with you.
Thank
We're
you very much.
all together. We're Moranians.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, François.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
What do you wish to achieve today? Morena Coaching International. Close to you, with energy and passion.